All right, hello everyone. Today we're solving LeetCode 2073, time needed to buy tickets. There are n people in line queuing to buy tickets, where the 0th person is in the front of the line and the n-1 person is in the back of the line. You are given a 0 index integer array tickets of length n, where the number of tickets that the ith person would like to buy is indicated with at tickets I. Each person takes exactly 1 second to buy a ticket and can only buy 1 ticket at a time and has to go back to the end of line, which happens instantaneously, in order to buy more tickets. If a person does not have any more tickets left to buy, they will leave the line. Return the time taken for a person to initially at position K, 0 index, to finish buying tickets. All right, that's a bit wordy, but we're gonna get straight into an example and it's gonna make a lot more sense. All right, so what we're gonna do is we need a way to figure out or to keep track of the original index of all of the values inside of our tickets array. Because as you can see, index 0 changes a lot when it moves it from index 0 to 2 to 1 to 0 again. And it changes, so we need to figure out a way to keep track. And how we're going to do that is actually have a 2D queue. The first value will denote the original index that it was in the input array, and the second value will denote how many tickets they have to buy at this point. Well, and let's quickly write that. I'm going to show you what that would look like. So let's say our queue would equal something like this. And it would be a 2D array. Well, that's how I'm going to visualize it here. The first element would have a value, an index of 0 and a value of 2. The second one would have a index of 1 and a value of 3. And the third would have an index of 2 and a value of 2. And we're also going to need a time variable to keep track of how much time is taken or how much time has elapsed. And it's going to always start off at 0. So what we're going to do is essentially exactly what we did in the example right here. We're going to pop off the first element, subtract 1 ticket, and add 1 to the time. And we're going to continue and append it to the back of the queue. And we're going to keep doing that until we check the index. And if it's equal to K and they only have 1 ticket left, we would exit the queue and just return the current time. So I'm going to quickly run through that. Hopefully, I know it's going to make a lot more sense. So the first thing we do is we're going to pop off the first element and we're going to assign 2 variables. So let's say I for the index, and the index is 0, and the value, and put V for value, is 2. As we can see, the value is 2, so we're going to simulate them buying 1 ticket. So the new value will be 1, and we're going to append them back onto the queue, and our time is going to go up. So our new queue would look something like this. And finally, we're going to append this back on with its new value. So the original index 0 and its new value is 1. And that took a grand total of 1 second. So our time is going to be increased to 1. So we've taken 1 second. Next, we're going to do the same thing for this value here. We're going to pop it off and assign its variables. We're going to say it has an I of 1, because this is the original place in the input array, and a value of 3. Same thing here. Its new value is going to be 2 because they bought 1 ticket, and we're going to append that back on. So our new array will look something like this. 2 is going to move up. 0, 1 will move up. Apologies for sloppy handwriting. And we're going to append our new value. So remember, the original index never changes, so it's going to be a 1. But instead of a 3, it's going to be a 2 here. The same story here. We're going to pop this off. And I'm sure I don't have to draw this again, but let's just quickly rewrite the queue. So they have 2 tickets left to buy, so it's going to go down to 1. So 0 and 1 is going to move up. Kind of hard to write these 2D queues. I'm just going to do a little parentheses. 1 and 2 is going to move up. And we're going to put the last element in. It's going to have the original index of 2. But now the amount of tickets they need to buy goes from 2 to 1. So it's going to be a 1 here. And it take 1 second to do that. So our time is going to go up to 2. Actually, I forgot to add the second to the last one. This would be the 2. And we're going to add 1 here and it'll be 3. And lastly, we're going to pop off this last element here. But this one's going to be a bit special because when we assign our values, we're going to say that I is equal to 0 and the value is equal to 1. We check our index value against our K and we say that index is equal to K. So that means we're looking at the value that we're originally tracking. And we see that the value is equal to 1, which means they only have 1 ticket left to buy. So once we subtract 1 from their value, this would equal 0. So they're essentially out of the line because you can't buy 0 tickets. Time would go up and we would break out of the for loop and we would return 4. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, comment down below and we're gonna get straight into the code. All right, so here we are at our code. And what we're gonna do is first initialize a variable called time, and that's gonna be what we're gonna be returning at the end. Next, we're gonna create our 2D queue, what was essentially right here. And we're gonna use something called list comprehension and the enumerate function in Python. And it sounds a little bit complicated, but I swear it's going to be a lifesaver if you figure out how to do this. So DQ, that's from the collections library in Python, and it gives us the queue. And we're going to do list comprehension. So we're going to say for IDX, for index, and value for IDX value in enumerate tickets. And what this is doing is creating a list, so an array with 2 values, the index and the value, because enumerate, what it does is it returns the original index of a variable of the value in the array and the corresponding value at that index. So we're assigning a list to the index and the value, and we're doing that for every element inside of tickets. So it would look something like this when we're done. Next, what we want to do is say is while true, and we're going to have a base case so this doesn't go forever. And the first thing we want to do is pop off our queue. So essentially the person's getting out of the queue to buy their ticket. So we're going to say I stands for index and V stands for value equals q.pop left. And pop left means we're popping from the left-hand side of the array, i.e. the first person, because the direction said that the first person is in the 0 index. Here's our stop condition. We're going to say if I equals k, because as you remember, I never changes. So the original index, if it's equal to k, that's the person we're tracking, is equal to k. So that means they're at the front of the queue because we've just popped them. And v equals 1. And that means that they only have 1 ticket left to buy. So what we're going to do is say time plus equals 1, because that's them buying their ticket, because it takes 1 second to buy a ticket. And we're going to break because we're done and we figured out how long it takes the person at index I to buy all their tickets, because if it's at 1 and we buy 1 more, it would be 0. Now for all the iterations where that doesn't happen, we'd say that our v minus equals 1, because the person in the front of the queue always has to buy a ticket. And we're going to say if v is greater than 0, q dot append I and v. And that's essentially us putting the new value that's been subtracted because they bought a ticket into the back of the queue. So as you can see here, they have a value of 1 and they go to the back of the queue. And now this 1 turns into a 0 here. And that's what this line is doing. And we're only doing it if the value is greater than 0, because if it's at 0, that means they can't buy any more tickets. So they shouldn't be in the queue. So that's just making sure no 0 values are in our queue. And all that takes 1 second. So time plus equals 1. And eventually it's going to hit this base case and break out, and time will hold the amount of time it takes the person at index I to buy all their tickets. So we say return time, and I think everything looks good. And let's try this out and see what happens. And there we go. We solved the problem. Hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Peace.